I recently just beat Tomb Raider 5, and Tomb Raider 5 was decent to pretty good. It was definitely more linear than Tomb Raider 4. The game felt more like a DLC compared to Tomb Raider 4, which had 35 levels, and Tomb Raider 5 had 13 levels. Now, Tomb Raider 4 definitely had better and more high points than Tomb Raider 5. However, completing Tomb Raider 5 was a smoother experience because Tomb Raider 4 gets too lengthy and tedious for me, while maintaining an immense amount of obscureness. Besides that, I cannot help but to mention the glitchiness, bugs, contradictory, and other aspects of this game that just do not make sense. And all of these things seem to occur on the second half of the game. A mechanic that is introduced to you in this game is combining the chloroform chemical with the cloth, and you use this to suffocate your enemies, Splinter Cell style. You rely on this mechanic heavy on the level escaping with the iris. However, there is this one guard that the game just does not allow me to use this mechanic on.
No.
Even though I'm breathing on homie's neck, I'm letting him know
there's no way out of this one.
The game just abandons mechanics that it lays forward for you to do to get rid of enemies while you're disarmed. The worst offender Tomb Raider 5 has to offer is the game-breaking save bugs that happen on the last level, Red Alert. Once you reach the central hall in this level, you get ambushed by some soldiers, but I took too much damage than I initially wanted. So I reloaded my game so I can do that segment again. Nonetheless, when I walk into the main hall, there's no soldiers that are dropping down the roof. The soldiers are important because they leave cables that you use to platform into the vent to progress to the next part of the level. So here I am hard stuck, and I actually look up this bug online, and I find out that there's about 6 places where you save and this bug will initiate and you will be hard stuck. So I actually had a save that was a while ago, but I just reloaded it and made myself all the way back to this point. And if you're on PC, you can always just use save files, so there are ways out of it. Before going through my clips, I used to think that this game had a vent inconsistency problem, which was that all vents will break if you shoot them. However, there is this one vent on floor 13, which will not break if you shoot it. Thus, looking at the vents, only the vents that look deteriorated and worn down are actually able to get shot and will break, which is a small detail that can go over people's heads, which in addition will take me to my next point, which is the beginning of Red Alert, where you get this deteriorated wall, which is about vent sized, and when I shoot it, it doesn't break, nothing occurs. So I'm wandering around, I'm like, is there an alternate path? Is there an item I need to find, like a lead pipe or a crowbar to break it? So I go back to that part of the wall and I interact with it, and Lara kicks it in and we're able to crawl through it. And my issue is with this is everything that we kicked has been the size of a regular door so far. Furthermore, certain items in this game are just hard to see. It could be a key item that an enemy drops, and you won't notice until you backtrack to the spot where you killed someone and you see that an item has dropped on the ground that you didn't really notice. Even more, certain objects that you need to interact with might be hard to see. For example, in Red Alert, there's this hatch, and I can't even see the handle indicating that you pull this specific part down. Yet alone, once you reach the submarine level, you can barely tell that the handle is damaged, indicating for you to rip it off and use it as a crowbar to open doors. Likewise, in Old Mill, there's this portion where you reach this part where there's this fence, and you can barely tell that you need to rip this specific part of the fence off to use as a crowbar later on. As well as the bone ashes in the church in the beginning of the labyrinth were hard to see. And I know some of you might be like, well, the entry scene of the level has the Grim Reaper highlighting the bone ashes. However, when I played the game, I just explored the setting when I first got to the level just to see what it was like, and then I saved and continued the next day. So I forgot the ashes were even over there. And even if you get straight into the level, you still have to find the proper combination to unlock that portion of the church. And by the time you figure that out, you might even forget that you're looking for the bone ashes on top of the chair. And honestly, it's still just hard to see. Don't even get me started on the fact that you have to use the crowbar to knock the chef out, when we've been using the crowbar to open doors the whole series. And now all of a sudden the crowbars are getting repurposed to knock people out. But none of the other key items serve multiple purposes. Unlike Tomb Raider 4, where you have some spots that you might think something is supposed to get pushed on top of it and it actually turns out being a hatch, Tomb Raider 5 has clearly defined hatches with handles that clearly indicate that you pull them down. However, on the level Escaping with the Iris, there is this one part that actually is a hatch, but does not look like it. You finally get access to the bathroom, you go inside the stall, and you look up, and you see that the ceiling has a crack in that spot. So you're thinking, I do something there. I think I gotta get a gun and shoot that ceiling spot to open it up so I can jump through it. We shoot damaged vents open to get through them so we can shoot damaged ceiling panels open. However, I wander around and I don't find anything to help me out because you're disarmed this level. However, I go back to the spot and I jump up and interact with it and she pulls it down like a hatch. That doesn't make any sense to me, honestly. I can understand if the ceiling panel was like pushed in a little bit and it had like a space where you can clearly jump up and put your hands in it and pull it down. And it's not even like when you pull it down, it falls out like a real ceiling panel would. It falls down like a hatch. Like, what? One of the worst design things in this game would have to be Escaping with the Iris levels elevator portion. So you ride the elevator up and the door opens and you have 3 enemies with plasma rifles waiting for you. It only takes 2 to 3 shots for an enemy with a plasma rifle to kill you in this game. So you would think you go out the elevator and run around, but you're gonna get killed. And eventually you learn that you have to go back in the elevator and hit the button again. And what happens is the elevator starts malfunctioning and starts to fall rapidly. So you would think while the elevator is falling, you have to go back and open the hatch and get out the elevator and jump out. But that is not the answer. You actually have to hit the button a 3rd time, and this triggers a cutscene where the elevator's brakes kick in, and the elevator still crashes like it would if you didn't press the button. So this whole segment was just pointless, and it should have all just been a cutscene without you having to press the elevator button 3 times and making everything so obscure and confusing. Escaping with the Iris has this one portion where there's a jump you need to complete where your jump mechanics just don't work as they should. And this occurs when you're in the elevator shaft and all you have to do is jump, swing around the pole, jump off the pole, and go to the next spot. However, when you do your jump, Laura does not have enough height to grab the pole to pole swing to the next spot. And check this out, y'all. The solution is to, as soon as you jump, hold the action button, and that gives Laura enough height to grab the pole, which is something that you should be able to do with just a regular jump. At the end of Escaping with the Iris level, there is a potentially obscure moment, maybe for some of us, but not all of us, where you hit the computer and it shows you this door. And I'm like, okay, well, what door is this? I don't know where that's at. Meanwhile, in the past on this level, there's a spot where there's a secret where the sniper can shoot the fire extinguisher and it blows up, leading to a secret. Okay, but what if he doesn't? And in your playthrough, you reach that door and you see that fire hydrant there, and you would have no idea to even shoot the fire hydrant. And even for me, when I got to that point, I was confused and stuck on it for a little bit until I realized I had my gun now and I can finally shoot the fire hydrant. When you're there earlier at the level, you're de-armed, so you're seeing fire hydrants all over the place. However, you're not really thinking to shoot them since you're de-armed. A part that I found obscure was when you fight the bald Walter White looking ass android in that room. I'm lighting him up full auto and dude is not dying, so I'm like, what is up with this part? So I actually look it up online and I find out that that little red turbine handle, you shoot it and the water pipes bust and then water floods the room. And it's not like he instantly starts short-circuiting because water got flooded into the room. You still have to start putting enough damage onto him to start revealing his electronic components. So there's 2 main issues here. One is that red turbine part was so small. Earlier in the game, they want you to shoot a fire hydrant, and the fire hydrant is a decent size, so you can't really miss it. Issue 2 is the water has to be in the room before you to even realize that Walter White is even a cyborg. Shooting at the cyborg without the water introduced to the room should start revealing his electronic components, so you get the idea to shoot the water pipe to flood the room to short circuit him. However, that is not the route the game takes. In reality, you should just be able to kill the cyborg with regular ammo without the water, but the water should just be a shortcut to kill him quick. In addition, the android takes more damage shooting his heart than shooting his head does, for whatever reason that is. Tomb Raider 5 allows you to use a headset which allows you to see infrared lasers, which if you walk through them, you get incinerated. Now, there's this portion of escaping with the iris that you need to hit this switch. However, if you step on the depression on the floor, you get incinerated. So I'm thinking, if I use the headset glasses, I should be able to see infrared lasers horizontally across the ground where the depression is. And maybe there will be some spots where I have to walk in a specific direction safely to the switch. Nonetheless, that is not the case. What you have to do is get chased by security, jump where the platform is elevated in front of that water tank, and have that security guard shoot the tank so water spills out. And then you'll be able to hit the switch. However, when I first did that, the water spilled out and I still got burned alive when I went to go press the switch. But it worked perfectly fine when I retried it right afterwards. I think this section could have had better indicators of telling you that the floor was going to make you catch on fire, rather than you just jumping on it and burning alive. Infrared lasers could have did that for it, like it has been doing for the previous levels. The tank doesn't even have fishes or any aquatic animals in it, so you might not even think it's a tank full of water. Broke ass company. Even when the tank busts open and the water flows out, there's no hard indicator telling you that it's safe to walk on now. You don't hear no steam going off. You don't see like no circuits getting fried. You just assume you can walk on the ground and touch the switch. Old Mill was one of those levels where I think most people probably found it challenging, and I did like the level, although the second half of the level had a lot of weird, confusing things going on for it. So I arrive at the second mill, and I'm swimming around underwater. I find this one door, and I interact with it to see if Laura will open it with her hands. Nothing happens. Accordingly, I try to use the crowbar underwater to see if she'll open the door with it that way. Nothing happens. Therefore, I explore and I come across this cage. I try to interact with the cage, but nothing happens, but I see there's a rope that leads up to the mill. Thus, I continue to explore and I see this one spot that looks like I can swim into it. However, it will not let me swim into it because this series, most of the time, does a horrible job at displaying when there is a current. Therefore, I explore to the other side of the mill. Now, note to yourself, I had to go back and use save files to get better footage than what I initially had for this part. Now, let's get back to the story. Nonetheless, I'm swimming to the other side of the mill, and I'm swimming kind of high, and before I can even get close to even start to look at the golden blocks, that animation with the siren plays out, and it pushes me away from that area. So I don't even know that there is a silver coin by those golden blocks. So I tried this for a few more times, and it's the same results. It has me feeling like I'm not even supposed to be over there, but at the same time, I checked everything out around the area, so I'm confused. However, I look around the area and I don't find anything new out. Now, I need you guys to understand this. The siren is not swimming around the area like you see in the clip here. Therefore, I try again, and actually I'm able to get close enough to see that there's a coin, and the siren comes out of a den to the right, rather than just playing an animation when I even get close to the area. Accordingly, I try a few more attempts, but I do catch the siren returning to the den facing the right, which means all she has to do is turn to the left to start clock blocking me from getting the coin. Remember, she is not swimming out and about around the gold blocks. I keep attempting to grab the silver coin, however the siren keeps coming out and giving me that animation and I can never finish completely grabbing the coin. However, I do one last attempt, and while I'm grabbing the coin, the animation plays out. However, after the animation plays out with the siren, it let me keep the coin, eventually letting you place the coin into the cage, allowing you to get rid of the siren. I had to highlight this example because due to the circumstances it presented itself, it really made itself way more confusing than it should have been, such as the siren not floating around the area she should have been, and me only seeing her on the right side by the den, until I redid the segment with save files. And I can't help but to notice in this game, there's times where you have the right item in the right spot, and you try to use it and Lara really just tells you no. Then all of a sudden you use it again in the same spot, and it goes through.
No.
In Red Alert, there's a section where after you pass the infrared lasers, there is a couple rooms, and only one of them is unlocked, which is the target range. You complete the target range, and after that, one of the other doors becomes unlocked, which takes you to a room where you find the grapple hook. To me, that just makes no sense. How shooting all the targets unlocks a door, but it is what it is. In all, I think Tomb Raider 5 was a decent game. I appreciate the more intricate enemy designs the game had to offer, but I just feel like the second half of this game was buggy and confusing. This game really doesn't add anything new from Tomb Raider 4 other than the pole swinging mechanic or the tightroping mechanic, which doesn't really do anything new or add anything to the game. They also had the grappling hook, but that doesn't add much either. However, I'm still going to play the remaster, and as always, guys, vibe out.